Innocent words, hidden meaning. By Nameless Saint. Have you ever noticed how children tend to speak their minds without hesitation? They have not yet learned to sugarcoat their words or hide their true feelings, which can make them seem blunt or even rude at times. But in many cases, their honesty can be a breath of fresh air, especially in a world where people often hide their true intentions behind polite language. The phrase, "kids say what they mean, it's the adults you can't trust," holds a lot of truth when it comes to communication. Here are 7 reasons why children can be easily trusted, and why adults often can't. 1. Children are not afraid to express their feelings. Children do not have the same inhibitions as adults, which means they are often more honest and direct in their communication. They have not yet learned to suppress their emotions or hide their true feelings, which can make them seem blunt or even rude at times. But in many cases, their honesty can be a breath of fresh air, especially in a world where people often hide their true intentions behind polite language. 2. Children do not have hidden agendas. Children do not have the same ulterior motives that adults often have. They are not trying to manipulate or deceive others for personal gain. They simply say what they mean and mean what they say, without any hidden agendas. This makes them easier to trust than adults, who may have hidden motives behind their words and actions. 3. Children are not as jaded as adults. As we grow older, we often become more jaded and cynical about the world around us. We may have experienced disappointments and betrayals that have made us more guarded in our communication. Children, on the other hand, have not yet been jaded by the world. They are still open and trusting, which can make them easier to trust in return. 4. Children are not as concerned with social norms. Children do not have the same social filters that adults have. They are not as concerned with fitting in or conforming to social norms. They simply say what they mean, regardless of whether it is socially acceptable or not. This can be both refreshing and uncomfortable for adults, but it also makes children easier to trust. 5. Children are not as self-conscious as adults. As we grow older, we often become more self-conscious about our words and actions. We may worry about how others perceive us, and we may filter our communication to avoid offending or embarrassing others. Children, on the other hand, are not as self-conscious. They simply speak their minds without worrying about how others perceive them. This can make them easier to trust, as they are not trying to manipulate or deceive others. 6. Children have not yet learned to lie. Children are not born with the ability to lie. They learn to lie as they grow older, often as a way to avoid punishment or gain approval from others. But when they are young, they simply say what they mean. This makes them easier to trust than adults, who may have learned to lie and deceive others over time. 7. Children are not as experienced as adults. They have not yet had the same opportunities to deceive or manipulate others. This means that they are often more innocent and trusting than adults, who may have developed a more cynical view of the world. This innocence can make children easier to trust, even if it also makes them more vulnerable to being taken advantage of. The Bible has a lot to say about trust. Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 to 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight." This verse encourages us to trust in God, even when we do not understand the world around us. It reminds us that God is always with us, and that he will guide us if we trust in him. However, the Bible also warns us about trusting in untrustworthy people. Proverbs chapter 25 verse 19 says, "Like a bad tooth or a lame foot is reliance on the unfaithful in a time of trouble." This verse reminds us that relying on untrustworthy people can be painful and harmful, just as a bad tooth or a lame foot can be. So how do we balance these two perspectives? How do we trust in God while also being cautious about trusting in untrustworthy people? One way is to focus on discernment. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 3 says, The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. This verse encourages us to be prudent, or wise, in our decisions. It reminds us to look for danger and take refuge, rather than blindly trusting in others. Another way is to focus on forgiveness. Matthew chapter 18 verses 21 to 22 says, "Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, 'Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times?' Jesus answered, 'I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. This verse reminds us that even when others betray our trust, we are called to forgive them. It does not mean that we should continue to trust them blindly, but it does mean that we should be willing to extend grace and forgiveness, just as God extends grace and forgiveness to us. In conclusion, the phrase, "kids say what they mean, it's the adults you can't trust," holds a lot of truth when it comes to communication. Children can be easily trusted because they are honest, open, and do not have hidden agendas. Adults, on the other hand, often have ulterior motives and may hide their true intentions behind polite language. From a Christian perspective, we are called to trust in God, but also to be wise and discerning in our relationships with others. We should focus on forgiveness, but also be cautious about trusting in untrustworthy people. Ultimately, trust takes time and effort to build, but it is essential for healthy relationships and a fulfilling life. Trust takes years to build, seconds to break, and forever to repair. If you enjoy watching this video, kindly consider subscribing to my channel. New content is posted daily. Thank you, and may God bless you.